Welcome to Duo Chat with Brittany
and Cynthia, where we talk about drama shows
like Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill, and more.
Hi everyone, I am Brittany.
And I'm Cynthia.
And today we're talking about Season 4, Episode 3, titled Good News for People Who Love Bad News. And then the air date is?
October 11th, 2006.
And the synopsis is?
Lucas and Brooke clash at a post-game party, and Haley realizes that Rachel is plotting to seduce Nathan. Meanwhile, Peyton connects with Derek. Rachel reveals that she knows who is pregnant, and Skills takes the court with the Ravens basketball team.
Did you notice that this episode was short?
No.
Yeah, it was like after you do the previous, then it said 40 minutes, but then it went into intro, and I'm like, so this wasn't even 40 minutes long.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Lucas narrates as pictures are being taken of Peyton by Derek.
Weird.
Mm-hmm. And then he says, Lucas says, do you ever wonder, how many pictures you see with strangers in the background? Makes you wonder how many strangers have pictures of you. And then Derek walks inside the cafe, saying it figures the first time a trailer talks to him, they're related. So that was kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
He's just being so creepy right from the start, though. Like, you would
mhm,
think that you would, like, ease your way in and then be creepy, but,
yeah.
like, Derek is just, like, full on, "I'm gonna be a creeper from the minute I see you."
Hmm.
And that's just weird. Don't you think, like, stalkers do it the opposite way?
Yeah, because right here he just showed two red flags, taking pictures of her from outside the cafe in public, and then
Right.
making that comment when he walked in. So I think this makes like four red flags total. So so far since we've met him when he
And
showed
he
up on
showed
the
up at her
porch.
house last
Yeah,
night.
yeah, at
So that's
night
like
too.
that's like 10 red flags all in one.
Yeah, so maybe we should like keep track of how many he shows throughout this whole thing.
But just in, like, one episode, like, there's just
Hmm.
so much creepy stuff going on from him. And, like, the thing is, like, Peyton is so I don't wanna say brainwashed, but, like, she just doesn't see it because she
Hmm.
wants a family so bad.
Yeah,
And
and
she
she's
wants a
trying.
and she wants a blood relative who's alive so bad
Hmm.
that she'll just take anything even if they have a million red flags.
Yeah.
And it's just so sad because, like, you can see how desperate and lonely Peyton is
Hmm.
because she craves it so much
Hmm.
that this is what happens. This guy has so many red flags, and Peyton just doesn't see it. Like, oh my god, that's just so
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah, and I think she's trying to be more open too because she, kept Ellie away for so long, and then when she let her in, it was kind of almost too late because she was already dying from cancer by then. So she doesn't like want to repeat history and make that same mistake with Derek if something bad happens to him too,
Yeah, but
possibly.
Ellie was also a problem.
Mhm.
She had her own red flags too.
Mhm.
Like, she would lie, and then she would wanna, "Oh, I wanna get to know you, but then I don't wanna get to know you, and, and I have cancer, but I don't want to," like, it was so back and forth. It was annoying because it's like, you either wanna know her or you don't.
Mhm.
Like, you're the one that went out to go find her, so, like, you either wanna know this girl or you don't. And
Mhm.
so, it actually was sad for Peyton because Ellie was like that.
Mhm.
Like, she didn't actually have somebody that wanted fully to get to know her. It was like Ellie was always, like, standoffish
Mhm.
and kind of wanted it her own way,
Mhm.
not thinking of others. And here Derek is, like, being a creeper. It's like, you gotta feel bad for Peyton, the fact that she's got these weird relationships with her relatives. And I know Derek, we all know, is not her blood, but right now she doesn't know that. So, it's just weird.
Mhm. Yeah, so then Derek says that this is a lot better than the other day when she slammed the door in his face. So we did, find out that she didn't just let him in right away, at least.
Yeah, but he could've okay, but here's the thing, like, she was alone, right, outside
Mhm.
in the dark. Like, he could have very easily, because of who he is, he could have very
Mhm.
easily pushed his way in when she was
Mhm.
walking inside.
Mhm.
nobody was there to see it. Nobody was there to protect her. It was
Mm-hmm.
creepy.
Yeah. And Peyton defends this because she said that he was the one that hung up on her when she called.
No, that was the real Derek.
And Derek says that, yeah, she caught him off guard, and she asked him, did he think she expected him to show up on her front porch? Like, what did he expect? And he says that, according to her podcast, yes, he expected her to just let him in.
Which is okay. A little bit of that is true of like Peyton did kind of like plead, like, I want to see you, talk to
Mm-hmm.
me, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of being desperate on her. It wasn't even the podcast, really. Remember? It was more of that video she was doing of like
Right.
giving all the information of Derek out there. So
Mm-hmm.
she kind of was basically when he said, just like, you wanted me to, she
Mm-hmm.
kind of did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's be real, especially because Peyton isn't really the phone typey person.
Right.
She was more like, the in person. Like she does I can't see her like sitting there like having a full on conversation with Derek on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
I could see her doing it in person.
Yeah.
Just think, remember how awkward she was on the phone?
Mm-hmm.
Like that would have just been a weird thing if she was really talking to Derek.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he goes on to say he's known about her for a while now. He didn't know if he wanted to meet her, so when she called, it freaked him out, but he was curious. So this would have been a perfect time for her to ask him how he found out about her, because then she maybe could have caught him in his lie before, like, because he would have to think of the whole backstory for this if he did. So,
Um Also, so this is where I remember last time when I was like, I swear that like, there was this whole scene with like Lucas and stuff, and it was right here. And that's why I thought this was the first time that they met. I didn't realize he was stalking her outside. So like, here's the thing. Some random person claiming to be your brother. By the way, you probably should do a DNA test. Um, claiming to be your brother
hmm
um shows up at your door unannounced at night and you're alone. Like, why would you be like, let's meet up tomorrow?
right.
No, what?
hmm
I don't understand. What, like, would you, if someone did that to you, would you be like, yeah, let's meet tomorrow?
No, I would give it like a few days to think about it and what to do exactly.
And
I
here's the
don't.
thing, she's trusting him.
hmm
He could be like a murderer and like
hmm
eh, and she's just letting him in. She's doing no background check on this person. She
hmm
she's doing nothing. She's just letting him in. And clearly he's a psycho, but she is just letting him in. Like, no, do your research on somebody before you let them in your life.
hmm
It's really weird. But and also she just slammed the door in his face yesterday.
Right.
So also I have another thing. I just thought of it. She has the real Derek's number.
hmm
So, how did she communicate with this one to say, let's meet up tomorrow at the cafe if she didn't have his number because he ain't the real Derek?
Yeah, maybe either email or maybe he just says that he changed his number like the other day or something like that.
Because isn't it weird? Because think about it. If you were like the next morning or something, or even that night, you had
hmm
changed your mind, you would pick up the phone like you had done previously and call him and say, let's meet tomorrow.
hmm Yeah.
You wouldn't, especially because that was your communication, was the phone with Derek. So why would she then go online to do it? It's weird.
hmm
Plus, don't you think it would be suspicious if she would have called that number and the real Derek was like, "Leave me alone." Like
Right.
he probably would, but stop calling,
Yeah.
like, that kind of thing. And then it would be like, wait a minute. And then all of a sudden, like this email comes and it's like, wait, but it sounds like a psychopath. Like,
hmm
but that's what I'm saying is like, how did she not call that number? Because I would.
Right.
I'd be like, especially when he said he just said that when she brought up hanging up and stuff,
Mhm.
he went along with it as if that's his number. So you would contact that number that you just
Mhm.
called the other day. And
Yeah.
so that's what's weird. It would
Mhm.
have been different if he would have said, in order for that to make sense of like he changed his number, it would have
Mhm.
made more sense if he said, that wasn't me.
Right.
Like I saw this through your podcast and stuff that you were looking for me, and that's not my number,
Mhm.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
And um, then she would have to talk to him through, email or something.
Mhm.
But to just use email and not a phone is weird.
Mhm.
Don't you think so?
Yeah.
So it's weird that it's not brought up here of like how she got in touch with him.
Mhm.
And also, she's doing it really fast. Like there's no ease into this. It's just boom, here he is. Like, and he's here a
Mhm.
lot.
Mhm.
And it's weird how it's just not. Is it because they only had certain amount of episodes with him? So they're like, we have to cram it all into these few that he's in.
Yeah, probably.
I wonder because I'm like, it's a lot. It's not like
Mhm.
we're, but they did that with Ellie too. Remember, she came in like that too. Like, I'm here, and it's like, who asked
Mhm.
for you?
Mhm.
So is it maybe it's just Payne's family
Yeah.
that do this?
Mhm. And yeah, so we don't know if Larry even knows about this Derek situation because I don't think he shows up at all through the whole thing.
No.
Yeah.
But I did think it was funny when he was like, so who'd you bring in case I turned out to be a psycho? You are a psycho. It's weird that you called yourself one. And then that's just like meet, Lucas, meet Derek and blah. And I'm like, okay, it's great that you, had Lucas there, but I'm like, the fact that he just called himself a psycho.
Yeah, I think that was
Like,
foreshadowing.
but yeah, but it's like, remember that, Peyton. You
Mhm.
don't
Yeah.
think that you could
Eh,
see it right from the start when he's taking pictures of her?
Yeah, like calling himself out, yeah, without her
Well,
knowing.
and again, do a DNA test
Mhm.
because you put it out there for the world, right? Like anybody that watches, you put it out there of, I want to meet the Derek. So anyone who likes you is going to try to get in touch with you. So there could be other Derek's that are like, I'm your brother Derek. And it's like,
Mhm.
so do a DNA test before you get yourself too involved with the person.
Mhm.
That's what I would tell people, wouldn't you?
Right.
And that's what, but see, I think that's the problem. Her dad wasn't around to say that to her.
Mhm.
Don't you think he would have?
Yeah.
I feel like he would have because when it came to Ellie, he obviously had met Ellie when she had Peyton.
Mhm.
So he obviously knew who she was when she showed up. Um, but this Derek person, he knows nothing about. So I'm sure he probably would have told her, we need to do a DNA test to make sure so you don't get too invested and hurt.
Mhm.
See, Larry should have been a part of this season.
Yeah. And then later they're walking, and Lucas tells Peyton that Derek seems cool. Throw a skirt on him, and he's her. And Peyton
That's
says they're not
weird.
that much alike.
That's
Yeah.
weird.
I guess because they look similar enough. So that's probably why they
Yeah,
didn't
because what, he
question
dyed his
either.
hair?
I think he's a natural blonde, isn't he?
I don't know, probably.
Yeah. So,
I don't
Lucas
know
says,
then.
oh,
Well, then Lucas kind of looks like Peyton then. What's he
yeah.
talking about? With his
Mm-hmm.
blonde hair.
Right. So Lucas, says, yeah, they're not anything alike because he's a photographer, she's an artist. And, they wouldn't shut up about that one album, and they both order the same
The same
breakfast.
breakfast. And then she was so
Mm-hmm.
funny. She was like, we all ordered the same. Like
Yeah.
everybody in there ordered the same breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny.
Yeah. And then Payne says she doesn't know if she wants to do it anymore, get close
But
to
I
somebody
will
so they can leave again.
but I will say, like, to meet your real sibling,
Mm-hmm.
like obviously she thinks this is the real one. So you're going to look at the similarities and stuff that you have with the person.
Mhm.
And I think, like, so for Lucas to, like, try to point things out, like, I get it, because like, that's what you do. You're like, "Wait, you 2 have this in common. You 2 look like that." Like, just like some you point all that stuff out, and, um, so that all made sense, but then, like, Peyton, I think she's not agreeing to it because is it because she's trying to not get her heart broken?
I don't know, maybe.
Because wouldn't you be like, "Really?"
Mhm.
Like, if you really wanted this, wouldn't you, like, listen to Lucas and be like, "Wait, what?
Yeah,
You
so
think that? You think we look alike? You think we
mhm.
have all this in common?"
Mhm.
It's just kinda weird that she's like, "No." Like,
Yeah,
"Wait,
she's
and this is what you wanted."
mhm. Mhm. Yeah, now she's having doubts about letting him in. Yeah.
Yeah, probably because he said too much already.
Mhm.
We haven't even
Y
gotten to the whole episode.
yeah. So Lucas reminds her, there's still people there. Not everybody leaves. Haley, Nathan, Brooke. Well, maybe not Brooke, he says, but Payne says she thinks she wishes Brooke wishes that they would leave. And then she tells Lucas that, has he heard from her? And he says, no, not since they broke up. And Payne tells him, to get his game face on and talk to her. It's playoff time. Everybody should be in a good mood. And then at school outside, Haley's putting up a banner when Nathan walks up.
Yep, and he said that he's failing marriage and he needs to be tutored. And then
Mm-hmm.
she said, "Did you try sleeping with the teacher?"
Mm-hmm.
Mm. And
Yes.
now he's saying that he wants to kinda, like, forget the accident, which I'm like, "Thank God," like, I'm tired of
Mm-hmm.
hearing about this accident. And,
Mm-hmm.
that's when he said that he wants to focus. He only wants to focus on basketball. And she's like, "Oh," and he goes, "Well, I mean, and you." It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you caught yourself there.
Yeah. So yeah, he tells her that she knows he's been, thinking about her and thanks her for being patient with him. He just needs some time. But
And
after
everything's
tonight,
gonna be better
yeah.
after tonight, yep.
Mm-hmm. He promises her.
Which I'm
Yeah.
glad to see him changing, because no one we don't want sad Nathan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she says she's glad to see him happy, but she doesn't know if everything what happened to him on that bridge is going to go away so quickly. And he says no matter what goes on in his life, every time he sets foot on the basketball court, it all goes away. She'll see. But her face looks not too sure about that.
Mm.
And then later at the gym, Skills is there on the bleachers when Lucas walks in.
This was so cute
Mm-hmm.
because Lucas gives Skills his jersey,
Yeah.
which is weird because, what's gonna happen? Like, later. But, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so he gives him number 3, his jersey, and his name is on the back, and they're talking about playing the first game. It's
Mm-hmm.
just all
Yeah.
so cute.
Yeah, because Skills is nervous.
But why does Skills think he's gonna play right from the start? Has
I
he
don't
even
know.
been to practice?
I don't know. We don't
We
see that.
really haven't heard them talk about practice. It's not
Mm-mm.
like, "I'm doing so good," or, "I had a really bad day at practice, so I don't know if I'm gonna play." It's full on, he thinks he's playing, and I'm like, "Did Whitey tell you that in practice?" It's just kinda weird.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was funny when, Skill said, "Did you wash it?"
Right.
And then Skill said, "Imma make this place look good," as in the gym and stuff, and he goes, "And the jersey."
Yeah. And play better than Lucas.
Well, I mean, okay. Which isn't that hard because I feel like lately Lucas wasn't playing well. Let me think about it.
Right.
After Keith's death, he never really played again.
Mm-hmm. And then at the cemetery, Dan tells the ghost of young Keith, enough. But then there's a groundskeeper nearby.
What did you think that the guy was like looking at him
Mm-hmm.
and he said he wanted to, what was it, pay his respects or something?
Yeah.
And like alone, and like the guy got up. I was like, wait a minute, what? Like
Mm-hmm.
he's there to do his job, right?
Yeah.
And he, he just walks away.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of weird. Like, you have a job to do.
Right.
You don't think your boss is going to question why you didn't finish?
Yeah, I think he just doesn't want to, get hurt by Dan if he is willing to do that.
It was just kind of weird. Like right away, he just gets up, and I'm like,
Hmm.
what?
Yeah.
I mean,
So then,
it wasn't like Dan like said, "Get out of here or else."
hmm
He just got up himself, and I was like, he didn't really threaten you.
yeah, I think it was just his tone and the way he was looking at him. So then Dan
Well, yeah,
tells,
but think about it. If that guy was still there, he would have seen that he's talking to a nobody.
yeah. So then Dan tells Keith he knows he made a mistake, but he can't take it back. And since neither of them, are resting in peace, he has a deal for him.
What did you think though when he said that like if you stop haunting me, I'll try to make things right with Karen, Lucas, and your baby? I'm like, no.
Yeah. And if he won't leave him alone, he knows what he's capable of.
Well,
So,
why would he say that? Like
yeah, was he threatening to kill
all
Karen,
three?
Lucas, or yeah, like that's what I want to know.
But why is he saying I'll try to make things right when
Hmm.
he's been trying? It threw me off because I'm like, you made or you fixed up the crib.
Hmm.
You've tried to go on a date with Karen. It's just like all this has happened before he's saying this to Keith. So it doesn't make any sense that he's saying like he'll try to make things right when he's been trying that with Karen.
Yeah, I
And
think
then
he meant.
it's just kind of unsuccessful.
Hmm. Yeah, I think he just meant he'll try harder, especially when the baby arrives. So, like,
I don't know.
he still has time to make everything up too until the baby comes.
It just kind of threw me off when he said, "I'll try," because I'm like, you kind of have been. You're just kind of getting rejected. That's all.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess he'll keep trying until they, let him make it up to them. So, and like he's trying with Karen first because she's, Lucas and the baby's mom. So, if
Well,
she accepts
she's
him, then he can make it up to them too.
well, for some odd reason, she's the easiest one to manipulate.
Hmm.
Because like Lucas knows all the bad things. So, but
Yeah.
Karen, you would think would too, but she brainwashed. So she would just go along with it apparently.
Hmm. Yeah, and then at school, Brooke says, to Haley, if they lose tonight, she's gonna kill Peyton. And Haley says
I
they'll
did
win.
like when she said it wasn't her fault, like if they
Yeah.
lose.
Hmm.
But then Brooke calls her traitor girl.
Hmm.
But like here's the thing, like you don't want Haley to like, because Haley and Peyton didn't start off well in season 3.
Hmm.
You don't want them to go back to that.
Right.
And um I like that Haley is just kind of like friends with both, except for when Brooke is trying to now pull her on her side by
Hmm.
saying like, you know, they cheated and stuff.
Hmm.
Like there's either Team Brooke or Team Peyton, and nobody wants to be on Team Peyton. And I'm like, what? But why did okay? She goes a step further and says, because their captain is a big whore.
Hmm.
First of all, isn't Brooke the captain?
Well, I think she was just saying like Team Peyton, Team Brooke, like those kind of teams, not the Trillion team.
Because it just threw me off for a second. I was like, what?
Hmm.
But also, how is she a whore?
She's just over exaggerating it because she sees that she just went after Lucas and kissed him, and that was it. That's all she sees.
But the whole thing is Peyton has never slept with Lucas.
Hmm. Yeah, I
So
don't
it's
know.
just like this whole episode, like Brooke just keeps bringing it up, and it's like she hasn't.
Hmm.
What?
Yeah. And then Haley asks Brooke if she thinks, that's a bit harsh. And Brooke tells Haley, like harsh as when they shove their tongues down each other's throats. And Haley says, that kiss was so long ago. And
Yeah,
Brooke tells Haley
she
they
said they
kissed
kissed again.
again.
Then she said you
Yeah.
should check Peyton's webcam.
Hmm.
And then like Haley's like, oh, like all that, and Brooke's like, "Welcome to Team Brooke." I'm like, "Oh my
Hmm.
god!"
Yeah, because they just see them together too on the quad. Yeah, so Haley joined the Team Brooke without really knowing all the details because she hasn't talked to Lucas either.
No, and like that's the thing is like Lucas is your best friend, and maybe you should talk
Mhm.
to him.
Yeah. And like I said, Brooke is she's just too focused on the kissing part of it all and not even the lying part, which is the part she should be angry about. You know.
Well, she is. Well, she thinks she too. She's taking it in of what Peyton said, which was she has feelings for him.
Mhm.
But Lucas has not yet said he has feelings for Peyton, even though we know he does. But
Mhm.
he has never actually said those words.
Mhm.
So for Brooke, and that's the thing is like, so you're gonna get mad at one person, or you're gonna get mad at both of them, but only one person said things.
Mhm.
The other one has not. So you're gonna like ruin everything because one person likes one.
Right.
Like you don't know if he really likes her.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of weird. Like we know he does, but I'm just saying it's just weird that you're going through all of this trouble when you don't even know because he's never actually said it yet.
Right. And then we go into the theme song, and then Brooke is sitting on the bench when Walkus looks up, saying he'll trade her his juice box for her bag of chips. And he'll throw in a cookie, trying to play nice, and be funny. And Brooke says Payne must, really need chips, and he asks how he can make this any, clearer. There's nothing going on between him and Peyton. And Brooke says, and there's nothing going on between them either, so why is he still there? And,
Well, and then he
Lucas,
said you broke up with me
yeah,
and never gave him a reason.
right.
She did.
Mm-hmm.
She kind of said she was tired of Lucas and Peyton.
Yeah, and just him not really seeming to care
Pick
about the
her.
relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, so she kind of did say it. She had that hurtful moment and stuff. So I don't know what he's
Mm-hmm.
talking about when he said, "You never gave me a reason."
Right.
What?
And then he thought they could be friends after all that.
Yeah, no. Maybe in 10
Mm-hmm.
years,
Yeah.
but not now.
Yeah, she definitely needs time for anything, so.
Yeah, it's been what, a week?
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't been a long time, so
Right.
just kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Lucas and Brooke were not friends from the start,
Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't mean you should be friends. Like, you don't have to be friends with all your exes. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just weird because it's not like, oh, we used to be friends, so let's work on it and let's get back to being friends. They
Mm-hmm.
were never friends.
Right.
Like Lucas and Peyton, I would say were friends.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, it would be different,
Yeah.
if they broke up and then they tried to be friends. But Brooke and Lucas were never friends.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of weird that he would think that.
Yeah. And then
And
later on
also,
in the
also, so he
hmm,
doesn't want to date her. He just wants to be friends with her and get the best of both worlds.
yeah, I don't know. So then later on in the cafe, Dan walks in asking Karen if there's anything he could do to help, and Karen says, "Yeah, he could leave Deb alone."
Yeah, and she said that, she quit, which Karen kind of forced her out though by yelling at her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like gave her kind of an ultimatum.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes, Dan goes, "Oh, that's Deb for you. Never finishes the job."
Yeah.
What? Um, and then, Karen tells him about the drugs and the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't even bat an eye at that. He just says, "Did you have any matches?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? Your
Yeah.
ex-wife is doing this,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't even question anything. It's weird.
Yeah. I guess he's not surprised about that. I'm just surprised he doesn't like have a reaction of like, how am I going to get her back now if she's carrying? So,
Wait,
but yes.
oh, get back at Deb.
Yeah.
Um, and then Karen goes, wait, who said she needs help? Wasn't it Karen or was that
Yeah.
Dan?
Karen.
Yeah, it was just funny. Um, but when he's like, "I'm not doing anything," it's like, oh my God. And then
Mm-hmm.
she was like, "You said you want to be a better person. Here's your chance." And it's like, he meant be a better person with you. He didn't mean with her.
Right.
I thought that was funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Karen tells him to do it, for himself and for the woman he once claimed to love.
I don't really think he ever really loved Deb.
Right.
I think it was he loved Karen and he just didn't want to abandon another kid, so he stayed with Deb.
Mhm.
I don't think he ever loved her.
Yeah. And then at the school, Derek says, that was the most morbid tour he's ever
Why
been
is he
on.
there? It's so weird.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised that he'd be allowed to walk around the school
Why all the students are in
have a
there
tour. Yeah, because they should have, tight security after the
after the
shooting,
shooting?
not let just anybody walk in.
Mm-hmm. That's a dumb
Hmm.
school for you
Yeah.
because you just had a major, situation that happened not too long ago. It's in the same school year.
Hmm.
So what, a month or two ago? And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're letting the stranger around?
Hmm.
That makes no sense. And nobody questions it, anything. He can just wander around.
Hmm.
It's weird. Plus, I thought they had security going in. Remember that?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that was just one episode, and then now they can all just freely walk in. I feel like
Hmm.
that security would be there forever.
Yeah.
It's just weird how it's not. It was for like one episode,
Hmm.
never talked about again. They never even said, "Oh, I'm so glad we don't have to go through all that again."
Hmm.
There's no talk about it.
Right.
And you would
And
think
then,
that even him as the guest would have to go through security.
hmm and then Derek even said that his favorite part of the tour was where the bridge where her friends crashed. So, did she give him the whole tour of Tree Hill and then the school last, or
Must have, and she had all this time to do it.
yeah,
So, did she meet with him before school
I
at the
guess.
cafe?
Hmm.
So she met with him before school, and then she took him all around town. Now she's going to school?
Looks like it. Yeah.
It's kind of weird. That's a long morning.
Hmm. And then she says, too bad she ran out of time because she really wanted to show him the place where she buried her prom date, and then says she's kidding. And he says, thank God, because it would be weird if they had another thing in common.
Again, red flag
Hmm.
number a million.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
weird.
And then he mentions he wants to ask her something. Like, is she okay with him being there? She's had her guard up all day, even though it's just been one morning. And then Payne apologizes and says that's just her. She doesn't let people in, really. And Derek says, he gets it. He's the same way. And then says he'd like to hang around a little bit and get to know her if she's not, if she's comfortable. And if she's not, he understands. And he would check out, out of his hotel and head home. At the very least, they have one great day together. And then he starts to walk away until Payne mentions there's a game tonight and a party after, and if he wants to go. Derek says, yeah. And then in the Ravens locker room, Waddy tells them the season has been crap. They started out this year with a crappy attitude, and they play like crap and look like crap.
So
You know
this
that?
is his way to like boost their confidence by saying basically you play like crap, you are crap, blah blah crap, crap. Like
Yeah.
that's all I hear. And
Mhm.
then like get out there and play. And it's like, that's your pep talk?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, kind of weird.
Yeah. He said that at least they made it to finals, and about the seniors being at their last chance for state, the state title.
Yeah, it was just weird.
Yeah.
A weird
Mhm.
pep talk for them.
Yeah. And play like the champions he knows it can be. So yeah, break them down and barely build them back up again. But
Yeah.
they go out on the court, and Mouth announces that Lucas is joining him and Gigi tonight.
And
And
Gigi is all
mhm.
into it. And she goes,
Yeah.
very lucky.
Yeah, and she says she's aroused, so I'm surprised she hasn't been fired from this position yet for saying those things out loud to her mic. And
And
then
then
Mouse said,
Dan is giving an award, presenting an award to Luke
mm-hmm,
or to Nathan.
yep,
Weird.
for saving two people in the shooting, or not the shooting, I'm sorry, the bridge, Rachel and Cooper.
And
And his,
okay, so when he gets out there, gives him the award.
mm-hmm,
Rachel out of nowhere comes up, jumps on Nathan, and kisses him.
mm-hmm, yep,
So weird. And Dan's just kind of like,
mm-hmm,
and then Dan wants to shake his hand, and Nathan just walks away, like, let's
yep,
play. It was
mm-hmm,
funny.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then with the cheerleaders, Haley tells Rachel to stay away from her husband and pushes
Stay
her.
the hell away from my husband. It was funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said, I'm just giving him the proper thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then Haley says, her thank you is sending people to the free clinic. And behind them, Peyton laughs when Brooke asks, what is she laughing about? Because her I love
Why
yous
are they walking together? That was weird.
send people to their graves. I think they were just walking to the side of the gym where they're supposed to be, the
Yeah, but
cheerleaders for the
if
game.
Brooke hates her so much, why would she, like, wouldn't she walk behind her? It was just weird you're walking next to somebody you hate. You
Yeah.
claim to hate.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I didn't like what Brooke said, but this is probably the first low blow that she gave Peyton before things got really bad between them.
It was funny, though, when Peyton said, well, if that's the case, then I love you, Brooke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was like, that was good.
And Brooke just calls her a whore. Mm-hmm.
Again, why?
Yeah. And then Derek is in the bleachers taking pictures of Peyton.
So, how is nobody clocking this?
Yeah, it's just Peyton, nobody else.
It's weird.
Yep. And then Nathan, the game starts, Nathan does well. And Mel comments that Nathan injured his knee during that rescue, but he's showing no ill effects tonight. And yeah, so then on the sidelines, Gil is mad that Whitey didn't put him in the game. And then another player that we've never seen says that he's been on the team for 2 years and he hasn't played one game yet.
But then Skill says, well, yeah, but I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Skills, you haven't really been to practice to know if this kid is good.
Right.
Also, stop with, like, kind of like the cockiness. Like, you just think you're better than everyone.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually annoying, especially when you're on the same team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can only have one of those, and that's Nathan.
Right.
And we don't need more.
Mm-hmm. So Nathan does some free throws. Haley and Rachel both cheer him on. And then, Nathan looks at the hoop, but starting to have a PTSD episode to see water dripping down the blackboard. And then the whole
And
team
he
is
sees
underwater.
Rachel.
Sees Rachel. Oh,
Yeah,
after.
he sees
Yeah.
Rachel when he's having the
Oh,
like water flash thing going on.
I, I thought he only saw Haley.
No, he never saw Haley. It was Rachel that he saw.
I could have sworn it was the flashback of Haley, like the dream that he had from Haley.
Nope.
Well, we'll have to double check that because then we see Rachel back at the game with the wind blowing through her hair in a slow-mo shot. And then, Rachel looks at Nathan and Haley looks at Rachel. Nathan misses his free throw.
No, that's the reason why he was looking at Rachel and missed it. Was because he's thinking of that.
Oh, okay. And then the locker room, Whitey acts like the team is tired. He knows he is, but he's old and they're young and they've been sleeping in first entire half.
Yeah.
And he
And
throws
he
his
goes, wake
clipboard.
up. That was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then
And
he
then of course
singles
he
Nathan.
calls Nathan out, and
Yeah.
that was it. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. But
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. Well, I mean, why is he only doing that to Nathan? It's just weird.
Just because he knows Nathan is usually better than this, and he asks Nathan if there's something he should know. And
Well, shouldn't the whole team be better?
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, but Nathan doesn't take his chance to say something, so he just says no, he's fine, he'll be okay.
But then Rachel tells Mouth, "Hey, Big Mouth,
Mm-hmm.
what?"
Yeah, I don't know. Because it would only make sense if he was talking to, about her to somebody maybe, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm hearing that only thing about the show, Netflix show. Dropped my pencil, and then yeah, he says that other than her saying it, there's nothing he likes about that nickname, and he tells her it's good to have her back.
And she said she's happier in her cheer uniform than the hospital gown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, then again, the gown was drafty in different places, but then
Yeah,
Mouth.
but then he said, since Cooper's gone, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, but dude, she still doesn't like you.
Right.
It's just so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm really lucky to have you.
Mm-hmm.
You're a good friend.
Yeah.
That's where it starts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then so he starts walking away until she tells him that he doesn't want her. She's a mess. And Mount just tells her he has to get back to his broadcast. And then the locker room, Skills tells Nathan that he's missing something out there, and Nathan guesses they're missing him.
So it was hilarious when he was like telling Nathan, like, you gotta tell uh like Whitey, but he says you gotta tell the old man
Hmm.
to put him in.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Like, yeah, he's really gonna put you in now.
Hmm.
And like that he's so good and stuff. Um and then of course Whitey's standing right there and hears it all.
Yeah.
And then it was funny because like Whitey's like, God forbid Whitey should keep you down.
Hmm.
And then Nathan was trying so hard not to laugh and he's like, you're welcome.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
Yeah, because he had Nathan repeat what he said about him being called Skills, so it was funny
Mhm.
too. And then, yeah, so he tells Skills to show them what he's got, and then we see Skills out on the court. Mouth introduces this as his first game as a Raven, and he's wasting no time because he keeps scoring. And then
Yeah,
he's
they just keep going back and
talking.
forth and
Yeah.
scoring. Yeah.
Hmm. And then we see Bevan cheering on Skills from the sidelines too. And then Mouth mentions that Lucas was a co-captain, so he was sidelined for health reasons. And then he says to Lucas, it must be hard to go from playing the game to watching it. And Lucas says he'd be lying if he said he didn't miss it, but he's really
And then
happy
of
for his
course
friend.
Karen is listening to it
Hmm.
and she gets an idea.
Hmm. And then, yeah, because Lucas was saying that, how good it felt to be on that floor the first time. And then go back to the game where Skills is on fire making a shot, and then segues to him making a beer pong, you know, shot, which was after the game, I guess. And Bevan takes a drink. And then Haley and Nathan are walking outside where Haley tells Nathan that it's like Rachel wants people to hate her because she goes after Lucas just to upset Brooke. And then she gets drunk and nearly kills Cooper. And now she's throwing herself at him. And Nathan is, giving her the benefit of the doubt, basically. And
Yeah,
Haley,
and they were holding hands and then they stopped.
mm-hmm, yeah. And, he's saying that she's probably just having a tough time with the accident. And
But
Haley
like
points out that she caused the accident.
what I don't understand is when she said like when Haley says like, she nearly killed Cooper,
Mm-hmm,
he's still sticking up for her. Like that's your uncle.
mm-hmm,
And you're saying that like you're just giving her the like if somebody almost killed your uncle,
mm-hmm,
you're not going to give that person the benefit of the doubt.
mm-hmm,
So it's very weird that he is
right.
because like I agree with Haley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just excusing her behavior on the accident, but everybody knows she was already like that before the accident. So,
Yeah, but he's giving her the benefit out because
hmm,
remember like they stop holding hands and like he like walks away and it's like what? All because
hmm,
Haley's telling the truth?
yeah,
That's what I didn't like.
hmm. And then Lucas is inside the house where he holds out a drink for Brooke and asks her if it can be a peace officer offering.
And
And
she
she's,
said she's on duty tonight.
yeah, and that they're not at war. But Lucas says, she could have fooled him. So yeah, I don't like how Lucas keeps pushing, trying to be friends with her when she's very obviously wanting, space from him.
Well, apparently he's trying to win her back for some reason.
Hmm.
And then
And
Peyton and Psycho Derek walk in.
hmm, yeah,
And then Brooke thinks for some odd reason. She thinks that that's someone that Peyton likes, which is weird
hmm,
because Peyton said she liked Lucas.
hmm,
And she's been spending all of her time with Lucas. So
hmm,
it's weird that she would think there's a new guy.
hmm,
I just thought that was odd. But of
right,
course, yeah, she's like, "What are you doing here?" She's like, "Well, it's Rachel's house and stuff." And then she kisses Derek.
hmm,
Ew.
yeah,
She's gonna regret that one.
hmm. Yeah, she
And
tells
then the
Derek,
oh
Derek not to worry, that'll just make Peyton like him more.
yeah, and then Peyton's like, well, because Brooke's like, oh, new boyfriend. She goes, no, he's my brother. And she goes, you have a
Hmm.
brother? It's like, yeah, you know nothing about Peyton's life. We can see.
Hmm. Yeah. And then Brooke's response to that is, guess your mom slept around even more than you do. So,
Yeah, she has a father too.
hmm yeah. So, yeah, the direct and indirect slut shaming on the show is crazy. And then Skills and Nathan show up with Skills saying, he has to thank the brother who helped her brother get on the team, saying to Lucas and then to Nathan.
Lucas was
And
funny. He's like, so which one am I?
yeah,
Oh my God.
and then Skills mentions having shots with the Scots, and Nathan tells Skills that he has to keep bringing it because it's just going to get harder.
What did you think when Bevan came up and she said she has big news and she goes, keep it on the BLT?
Right, yeah.
It was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And then her whole big news is that Brooke broke up with Lucas. Yeah, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
It was funny.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so Lucas says thanks for the news. And then Peyton walks up to a drunk Mouth to introduce him to Derek. And she calls Mouth her great friend. And, this
He's like,
makes
I'm
Mouth mad.
everyone's friend. I'm everyone's
Mm-hmm.
great friend.
Yeah.
He's so drunk. It's hilarious.
Mm-hmm. So she asks Mouth if he minds hanging out with Derek for a couple minutes when she goes to use the bathroom. Mouth,
He goes, that's what friends are for.
mm-hmm. Yep.
And
And then Derek tells Mouth that it's great to meet him. And Mouth says, what's his name? Cooper. And Derek corrects him, that's Derek.
he
And
goes,
Mouth says,
whatever, Felix.
yeah. So,
Mm.
yeah, it would have been crazy if Psycho Derek slept up here and Mount doesn't even realize it because he's too drunk to even remember or pay attention, to warn
Well,
Peyton.
what's really weird is that he's he he was called a friend from Rachel just recently, and that's what's making him spiral.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird that he's bringing up Felix.
Yeah,
Like
I guess,
Rachel had nothing to do with Felix.
right. I think it's just bringing up all his feelings about not being
Rachel
able to be
and
with
Brooke.
the girl that he likes because there's always another guy, being with her instead. So,
Because it threw me off because I'm like,
mm-hmm.
okay, Cooper because of Rachel. Then he's
Mm-hmm.
bringing up Felix, and it's like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, So, Mount asks Derek if he's ever been a girl's friend. It sucks. And what else sucks is the new guys. And then, Derek repeats that his name is Derek, and Mount tells him if he wants to get on his good side, he does. Stop kissing Brooke and don't even look at Rachel. And don't move here because nobody likes new guys, calling him new guy.
He goes,
Yeah.
You don't like new guys? New guy. Like he just kept saying new
Mm-hmm.
guys. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah. And then he forgot what he was talking about, so Derek tells him that he doesn't like new guys. And Mount says, oh, yeah, damn new
Damn
guys,
you
and
guys.
takes,
Yeah.
yeah, and takes
Funny.
another sip of his drink and walks off. Yeah. So then Nathan runs into Rachel and she says, she was told to stay away from him.
He
And
said,
Nathan,
and it was weird. He said,
or
since
he was
when
told,
do
yeah,
you do what you're told? And I'm like,
yeah,
Nathan, what?
mm-hmm,
Like your wife
and
hates her.
mm-hmm, yeah,
Why? And she already made a move in front of everyone on you.
right,
Why are you allowing this? I don't
yeah,
understand. Like if
and
you
then
love Haley,
mm-hmm,
why are you talking to Rachel?
right, and even more so because he's standing like right behind her, so all he has to do is, or
And his
all she
arm
has to
was up
do,
there. His arm
yeah,
was right behind her like you're a couple.
yeah, so all she has to do is like turn her head towards him and they can basically kiss.
Yep.
But she says she's never really done what she's been told, and she asks him, did he like her last kiss so much that he wants another, and he tells her to guess again, and
Yeah, and all he just holds up his
hmm
hand. And
yeah,
he says, like, guess again. And I'm like, what?
hmm
That doesn't tell me you love Haley.
yeah,
That just tells me I can't do anything because I'm married. That's
hmm
all that told me. It didn't
yeah,
tell me you don't want Rachel. It just told me you're married. That was
hmm
it. That's all I saw.
yeah,
What did you see?
yeah, no, yeah, nothing. different than that now.
Who puts their hand up? I'm married. Yeah, that just
Mhm.
tells me there's a roadblock.
Mhm.
Seriously, Nathan?
Yeah. And then he asks, what does she see underwater? And she says last thing she remembers is the limo going off the bridge and then waking up in the hospital. And he asks if there's anything else she remembers, and she says just him saving her life. And she asks why, and he's starting to walk away, but to get his attention, on her back again, she says, her memory's a little hazy, but if she does remember something, he'll be the first to know. And then we see Haley from a distance, because she saw all that.
Watching.
Yeah. And then Rachel looks at her and, is all happy that she was there to witness that. And then Haley passes by Lucas, who's talking to a girl, and leans in
And
towards him
she's
to
like,
say,
"Are you gonna kiss her now?"
mm-hmm,
And then he like goes kind of like walking back to her, and he's like, "Excuse me?"
mm-hmm,
And she's like, "Brooke told me that you kissed Peyton." Mm.
again, mm-hmm,
Yeah. And then he explained that she was dying and stuff. And then he said, "Do you really want to go there?" And she's like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, um, like when you kissed Chris. I was like, "Oh."
mm-hmm,
It was funny. I'm like, "It's true." Like at
yeah,
least somebody's going back at her
mm-hmm,
because
and
she's
then,
trying to act all high and mighty. And the
mm-hmm,
whole difference is too, Haley was married when she kissed Chris twice.
right, mm-hmm. And then Lucas goes outside to talk to Brooke, and she's talking to a group of guys, and turns around to face Lucas, and she tells him this kind of feels like deja vu. And he
He
says,
said, "Not
not
really."
really. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she told him to fight for her, and he did, but she never fought for him.
And I'm not going to. We
Mm-hmm.
got it.
Yeah. And then he says he guesses he was wrong. He's not the guy for her. And then he tells the guys that Brooke is all theirs and walks away.
Did you see Brooke's face though? It was like, "What? Like, where are you going?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you don't. You broke up with him. If you
Mm-hmm.
wanted him, it's just annoying. Like, why should he fight for you when you're not, when you don't even want to talk to him?
Mm-hmm.
It's just weird. Like, let's just move on, Brooke. So I didn't like her
Well,
reaction towards that because I'm like, you're just not supposed to be
mm-hmm.
together.
Yeah, well, did she mention maybe like fight for her like before they were close to breaking up, like on the wedding day maybe she met?
No, I mean, she just, eh, I don't know. I just didn't like the reaction when he
Mm-hmm.
walked away because I'm like, when are you gonna realize you're not supposed to be with him?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is what you wanted was the breakup. Otherwise, you'd still be with him
Mm-hmm.
because he wasn't gonna break up with her.
Yeah.
So that's kind of on you.
Mm-hmm. And then, still a very drunk mouth runs into Lucas.
He goes,
And
"What's that mouth?" And he goes, "That's all you ever say."
yeah, mocking
He goes
him.
he goes, "Have you been drinking?"
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, Mouth just says, this party sucks. And Lucas says he knows what Mouth means. And Mouth says, sure he does. Because every time a girl says that he likes her, she says, what a great friend you are, right? Says, oh, wait, that's him. About him, saying about himself. And he tells Lucas he's the guy that they all throw themselves at Brooke, Rachel, Peyton, probably even the new guy.
And then Lucas was funny. "How many of those have you had?" And he goes, "Counting this one."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
Hilarious. I'm like,
yeah,
"One?" And it's not
yeah,
even finished. The drink isn't even
mm-hmm,
finished, and you're
yeah,
already drunk?
mm-hmm.
Which is weird. Didn't he get drunk against Felix, remember, at Trick?
Yeah, I think so.
And he was mouthing off again to Felix at that night, and then that's when
Mm-hmm.
Lucas got involved.
Yeah, and he broke
Mouth
Brooke's windshield.
Yeah, Mouth shouldn't, be drinking because
Mm-hmm.
clearly he gets a little tipsy with one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Lucas takes the cup away from him and, gives him water. And then Lucas finds Haley, who's sitting on the stairs, and she says she's sorry. She's an idiot. She shouldn't have come at him like that. And he says he's sorry too. And Haley says she hates Rachel. And Lucas says she probably just, trying to say
And
a
then he goes
positive thing about
then he
her.
goes then he goes, "I hate her too."
Hmm. And
Uh,
Haley tells him she's sorry about him and Brooke, and then tells him Brooke is probably going through a lot right now. And
Which
Lucas says,
here's the thing is Lucas should hate Rachel because
mm-hmm,
Rachel tried to break him and Brooke up plenty of times before. So he should hate her
Yeah.
just from the past experience.
Yeah. And then Haley asks Lucas if he can promise her that no matter what happens, they will always be friends. And he says,
And he goes,
yes, always.
always and forever.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Teasing her. And then Peyton walks over to Nathan, saying she saw him come sit over here by himself, and that used to be their signal. So she asks if he's okay, and he says, yeah.
It
He's just
was.
thinking. That's what she said, yeah.
It's
That it
weird
was.
because Nathan would always party with other people, get
Mhm.
drunk, they'd break up. Like this, it was weird when she said, "This is our signal." What?
Yeah.
I don't think so, but let's throw something new in.
Mhm. And then Peyton tells, Nathan that Lucas told her about him seeing Keith the day of the accident, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about. And Nathan says he's not embarrassed, he just doesn't know if he should believe it. And Payne asks him if he thinks it couldn't happen or happen to him. He says either both. And Payne says she felt the same way about when her mom died, and then she tells Nathan that she goes to visit her grave all the time, and she likes to think that she's just not talking to a rock. And she tells him it's not crazy to think that someone he cared about and lost might still be watching over him. And Nathan asks, what if he did more than just watch? What if he
I
actually
like
saved him?
I like when she said, like if he's, like if he saved you, do you really think like he'd want you to like sit here by yourself and pout? I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
there you go. And then
Yeah.
it was kind of because then she kind of like had to make a joke by saying um, like you can come with me sometime to the cemetery and the four of us can have a picnic. I'm like, really, Peyton?
Mm-hmm.
But of course, Rachel is hearing all this, so now she knows all of this of what now to say to Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
It's annoying.
Yeah, and someone from the team gives Nathan his reward, and he looks at it and says it's not his and
Not
throws it in the
mine.
trash. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then Rachel takes it. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And then Haley's clearly looking for Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
And Rachel's like, if you're looking for Nathan, he's in my bedroom. And she's like, if you're looking for a black eye, it's in my fist. It's so funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then asks Rachel, why does she always go after guys she can't have? And Rachel says to let her know if she sees any. And Haley says she would, except he left town. And Rachel tells Haley that she understands why she's so angry. She used to
Is
be a
that a
fat chick
fat
with a
chick
little
with a
head
little
too.
head?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Where
So
did that come from?
right. Yeah. So when Rachel changed her appearance, she just, changed herself for the, from the inside too, for the worse. And her new body just made her think she's better than everyone. And
So her head got
that,
bigger when she
yeah,
got skinnier?
well, that or when I'm talking about Rachel, that or she still
That's what
hates
I'm talking
herself.
about. Rachel, when she got skinny, her head got bigger?
Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
That's weird.
Yeah, so either she thinks she's better than everybody else, or she still hates herself, and that's why she shames and slut shames everybody left and right to make herself feel better for making them feel bad. And then later on, Lucas finds Mouth. He asks him if he's all right, and Mouth says hands up saying that he wishes never been left at the river court. They're all happy back then, and then after a pause, Lucas just tells him that he's going to leave the party and doesn't need a ride, and Mouth says he's going to stay for a while. And then then he leaves, but Lucas, before he does, takes a couple of before that's what he does and gives him the water.
Yeah, this was when he did it. He didn't do it before. He did it here.
Right, yeah. And then Mouth ends up laying down on the bench with a towel as a blanket. And then Karen ends up going to see Dan at the beach house.
Weird.
Mm-hmm. And
Is
he
it the
acts,
first time at the beach house
um,
that she sees him?
yeah, I think
That she
so.
goes to?
Mm-hmm.
And then she wants to talk to him and he goes, "You're not gonna yell at me." And then
Mm-hmm.
she just wants to ask him about basketball. And he goes, he's like saying like he's kind of like not the person to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, what does she want to know? And Karen says, why was having basketball in his life so important? And he says it's the only thing he ever knew he was good at. And people counted on him and he never let them down. It's the best feeling in the world.
And
And when
then
that
yeah,
little boy, yeah, he
and then
didn't
he
know
asked
who he
her why
was.
she asked, and he said, or then she said that Lucas is missing it. Just want to know if
Mm-hmm.
he'd be okay. Yeah. Well, that's when he said
Yeah.
he wasn't the right guy to ask, but
Yeah, without
yeah.
it, yeah. And then Dan tells her, oh, she says, thank you for the crib. And then Then we just go back to the party where Brooke and Rachel clean up after the party. And Brooke tells Rachel she knows she was drunk at the wedding and in a coma for the honeymoon, but just to keep her up to speed, Nathan and Hillary are still married.
And then she goes, "Thanks for the update." Um and I liked when Brooke said, like, I'm like one of her bridesmaids, like making sure they stay together. Like that's her
Hmm.
job. And I'm like, I like that. But I thought Brooke was the maid of honor,
Yeah, I
not
guess, yeah. She just meant in
bridesmaid.
general, I guess, yeah.
Yeah,
And
but
that,
people that are maid of honors love to say they're maid of honors.
hmm,
So it's weird that she wouldn't say she's the maid of honor because she is.
yeah. I don't know. Maybe it just kind of slipped that way because she was having not a great time herself there with Lucas and everything. But Haley, she says Haley might be too classy to fight her, but she will kick her little ass. So, but it's funny because we know that Haley will fight anybody.
Is
Yeah,
actually the one that'll fight.
yeah, yeah. She probably just didn't want to do it with everybody there, at least in this moment. And then Rachel tells Brooke she thinks she's going to see out of it, and Brooke asks her why is that, and Rachel says because
You're
she's pregnant.
pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
then
who's
who's
the
the father?
father? Mm-hmm.
Lucas. Oh.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Mouth, since he's laying there, he hears it
Mm-hmm.
all.
Yeah. And then, she points out, like, she hasn't been drinking. She's making maternity clothes. And she found the pamphlets from Planned Parenthood in her nightstand. And, Brooke's like, why are you going through my drawers? And Rachel said it's her drawers. But she was looking for condoms, something she probably should have been doing herself. And Brooke says, she's not having this conversation with her. And Rachel says she's talking to her about the baby. So I'm surprised they didn't see Mouth there because it's not like he's in hiding. He's right there
No,
just with the towel on
but I
himself.
feel like they were just so
I mean, they
invested in
probably thought
arguing.
they probably thought he was sleeping too, but
But I think they were just so invested with arguing, they didn't really look
hmm,
at who was laying there.
yeah. And I mean, even if they thought he was sleeping, they were still kind of talking loud enough to wake him up. So,
Well, and anyone could have heard.
hmm. And then at Peyton's, Derek tells her being an artist must be really easy. She can draw anything. If he wants to take a picture of a unicorn, he'd have to find one. They kind of tease each other back and forth like siblings should. And then Derek is looking around her room when he sees a death angel drawn of Peyton that Ellie drew.
And that one's his favorite. And she goes, "Yeah, you picked the
Hmm.
one that I didn't do."
Yeah.
And then she brought up that, Ellie did it. And he's like, "Oh, wish I could have met her."
Hmm.
Weird.
And then she takes it off the
'Cause I
wall.
do wonder, like, the real Derek probably did meet Ellie.
Hmm. Yeah. So then Payne takes it off the wall and, hands it to Derek, but he declines. And she says that Ellie brought them together, so she wants him to have it. And she's seen enough of the angel of death anyways.
And she's
And he
gonna
tells her,
regret it, and she's gonna regret it soon.
yeah. And he says he's going to put it in a special place. And then he tells Peyton that he knows she hasn't asked about their father and he hasn't given much, information. He just
I
knows
bet
that
he skipped out on them in a pretty young age, yeah.
yeah, but she'll tell him or he'll tell her anything she wants to know. And maybe tomorrow. And he thanks her for the picture again, then leaves. And Peyton's, still in the dark, but she's smiling, feeling like she has a real connection, a bond to her quote unquote brother is
Mhm.
actually forming.
Sad.
And then yeah. And then the River Court, Lucas tells Skills who played the game, and Skills says it wasn't a Lucas Scott game though, and he says no, it was a Skills Taylor game. And that's exactly what the team needed. And Skills tells Lucas that he's sorry about the way everything went down with Brooke.
And so then he brings up what Mouth said,
Hmm.
Lucas does, that, they should never left the river court. And I liked when Skills was saying, like, you know, you wouldn't have been with Brooke and tried again and all this. And then Lucas is like, yeah, but like Jimmy and Keith would still be alive.
Hmm.
And he's like, like that's stupid to think. And um I like that he brought up like Haley and stuff and Nathan.
Hmm.
I liked it all because it's true. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, there's bad moments because it's life, but there was also good moments. I mean, Nathan
Hmm.
and Haley got together,
Yeah. Yeah. So like the Skills was the voice of reason here, and
and he has
that
a
was
brother that he
yeah.
wasn't talking to.
Hmm. But I do get how Lucas can think of that domino effect of everything.
Well, I think more importantly, he probably thinks like the most important thing is Keith would still be here.
Mm-hmm.
Because it
Right.
was weird that he said Jimmy, because I'm like, Lucas still thinks Jimmy did it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's weird that he would say, and Jimmy, because I'm like, uh, remember when like Luke
I
was all like,
I
don't ever
think.
say, Jimmy, and now
Mm-hmm.
he's saying Jimmy.
I guess it's like maybe if they were still at the river court, then Jimmy wouldn't have turned into this murderer, is what Lucas is thinking, probably.
Yeah, it's weird. I know that's what he was thinking. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't have abandoned him and all this, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
because Lucas thinks he did it, it's weird you
Mm-hmm.
would bring his name. Like, I just feel like if you found out somebody killed the person that you love in your family, you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to ever say their name.
Right.
And so to say his name in the way that how he said it too, like just rolls
Mm-hmm.
off his tongue was weird.
Right.
That's what I just didn't really
Yeah.
understand, but okay. But I get it.
Yeah. And then Skill says to Lucas that he has a feeling there's something going to happen to him real big right around the corner. And then Dan is at home looking at one of his trophies when the ghost of young Keith shows up again. And Dan tells him he thought he got rid of him and he figures he's not taking his offer. And young Keith tells Dan there's only one way to get rid of him, and he thinks he knows what that is. And then we see a shot of Dan's gun on the table in front of him. So obviously, the only way to get rid of him is for Dan to kill himself, but that's not going to happen. And then Nathan gets home and Haley's still awake and points out that he keeps going to that bridge, and then admits she never thought she'd be jealous of a river. And, she's trying not to be jealous and she wants to be understanding, but it's really hard with him sneaking around.
And I liked when, because like he apologized and stuff. Then she said that, like whatever it is, just wants him to she just wants him to let her in and stuff. And she goes, even if it's something to do with Rachel, even if you like her, I just want you to tell me. I was like, what? But again, he did kind of make it that way because he never really said no. He just said, I'm married,
Hmm.
which isn't a no.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "You think I like her? Well, you spending a lot of time with her, yeah." Anyone would think that.
Hmm.
And then he was just, then he kind of opens up a little. But I'm like, finally, you're saying no. And finally, we
Hmm.
have a cute scene that we haven't seen in a while. Like, we haven't had a cute Nathan and Haley scene since what, last season?
Hmm.
So at least we got that.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was funny, like at the end, she was like, uh, do I have a little head? Or she goes, do you think I'm fat? And he goes, of course not. She goes, do you have a little head?
Hmm.
What? And it was
Yeah.
weird because he never like questioned why she asked that question.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
where is this coming from? And then it would have been like, well, Rachel.
Right. Yeah, she should have
And
said that.
and then like for him, it would have been like, okay, well, Rachel's getting to her. Like,
Hmm.
I need to stay away from her. But
Yeah.
he never clocked that at all.
Mm-mm. And then Haley circles back to the bridge. He says he was going to think if he saw Keith, uh, he says he keeps going back to the bridge because of, thinking he saw Keith. And then and he pulls out the bracelet out of his pocket that he lost and puts it on her wrist and tells her he loves her. And she tells him she loves him too.
And we finally get a
And
kiss, yeah.
yeah. And then we see Rachel in bed looking at Nathan's reward, which is creepy. And then Peyton's on her computer when she gets an email from Derek saying, had a great time with the number 2 night NITE, and then thought of you with 2 Ys. Might like this pic, thought you might like this pic, and it's a picture of her from the game, which is a good picture. But yeah, so I made note of how he put 2 Ys and you in the 2 night because I thought maybe from the messages before he might have done something like that, but at least the last message, it wasn't anything like that. He just typed it the way you usually would, but maybe he might have in the previous messages. I just couldn't go that far back in my notes to see. But because he also put an extra space between the two sentences too, so I was just like trying to see if he was making any connection with, like, if that was obvious that that was him. Of course we know it's him, but like just to wire it back to that screen name on her IM.
Mm-hmm.
But Lucas narrating again, and then we see Rachel sleeping with the reward in her arms now.
Brooke's crying.
Yeah. And then we see Haley with the bracelet, her hand over Nathan's in bed. And then Dana's laying on the couch with the ghost of young Keith there with him. And then back with Peyton playing Derek's picture of herself on her wall above her bed with her drawings.
And then it goes to Derek having the picture on the wall.
Yeah.
So creepy. And then, of course, when the zooms out, it's
Mm-hmm.
so many pictures of Peyton, and like there's even Peyton and Lucas. It's so
Mm-hmm.
creepy.
Yeah,
I'm like,
covering every inch of the walls of his room.
yeah, it's so
So,
creepy.
so he.
And then did you like how it ended with like when it fades out, the door shuts?
I didn't
'Cause
notice that.
he didn't shut the door, but the door shuts, and I'm like, this is so creepy.
Oh no, I was listening to Lucas at that part
Now I was watching, I was like, oh,
saying, you could be a big part of someone else's life and not even know it, like with Pam, Derek, Psycho Derek. But my thing was, he said earlier that he would leave, check out of his hotel room and leave and go back home. So is this a hotel room or is this his real room at his house? Like that he just lives nearby or something? Or did he drive all the way back to his house? I don't like where is he with all these pictures?
I thought it was his house.
Yeah, I don't know. So I didn't get a chance to listen to Drama Queens to see if they had this question too and if they knew from their producer who was on the show that gives them the answers if that was where he was. I was just wondering. Because I feel like if he was in a hotel, like it would be kind of tricky to have all those pictures without somebody else seeing, unless he kept the maid out. But and then it would need time. He would need time to take all that down too and put it up. So I don't know. I was just thinking
That's why
where
it
he even
probably
was.
was his room,
Okay, yeah.
because it looks like a lot of work he's done, like
Yeah.
over time.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, the high was seeing Skills and Nathan play.
Mhm.
Um, the low, hmm, Psycho Derek. Um, yeah, definitely don't like him. Uh, and Rachel. It's really annoying. What about you?
Yeah, my low was Rachel and the high, yeah, was seeing skills play finally.
Yeah. And then what would you rate it?
Like 8.
I'm gonna go with a 7.
Mm.
And then who was your best and worst?
My best was Brooke just because she was trying to, keep Rachel away from Haley and Nathan, even though she was a little too late. But so she told her off, after the party. And then the worst is Rachel just because she's trying to stir things up. She can't have Cooper. So now she's going after Nathan. So she just, like Brooke said, she keeps going after guys she can't have, which is annoying. And you thought she would learn from the accident not to mess with things like this again, but she's still doing it. So, yeah.
So for me the worst was Rachel, because you would think that she would stop this crap, you know, and she's still go like after the accident. You
Mm-hmm.
think you would be a better person,
Yeah, like I said, yeah.
but she's just not, and it's annoying. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and she's just doing everything in front of people. Like she's not even trying to hide it.
No.
So she's the worst. And then I thought the best was Lucas. I liked that he was there for Peyton when it came to Derek.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, think about it, she's gonna need an ally pretty soon to like
Mm-hmm.
know stuff, and it's Lucas who's learning everything now about him. And um, I liked that he was there for Mouth too, because Mouth was pretty wasted after one drink,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody else was looking out for him to give him water and stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, reassuring skills that he'll play okay or play
right,
great. Mm-hmm.
so he was just there, and he reassured Haley like they're always gonna be friends.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he was good in the episode. And then what's the next episode?
Episode 4, Can't Stop This Thing We've Started.
Man, these are long titles.
Yeah.
All right, it'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks for listening.
Yep, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Duo Chat. If you want to chime in with your opinion about the episode and the show we discussed, you can email us at duochatpodcast@gmail.com. And to keep up with updates about the podcast, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube at Duo Chat Podcast. And give us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We would appreciate it.